All right, let's dive into a fascinating, kind of weird paradox about us humans. It's this mystery that so many of us live with every day, and we're going to unpack the science behind why it happens. So think about this for a second. Why on earth do we pay good money, line up for tickets, and sit in a pitch-black room just to be terrified out of our minds? We actively seek out fear for fun. But then, when we face a different kind of thrill, something strange happens.
We run from it. That big promotion, a promising new relationship, that creative project you've been dreaming about, all of a sudden, those things feel like the monster under the bed. They can be so scary that we freeze up, or even worse, we sabotage ourselves. So what is going on in our brains that makes us do this?
To solve this puzzle, we've got to get into how our brains are wired for fear. And it all starts with this tiny but incredibly powerful little structure deep inside your head.
Everybody, meet the amygdala. You can think of it like the brain's central switchboard for emotions. As Professor Michael Graziano from Princeton explains, it takes in everything you see, hear, and feel and plugs it into your emotional response center. But here's the crucial part. The amygdala handles all emotions, not just fear.
Now, because all these emotional systems are packed so tightly together in the brain, the wires can get a little crossed. It's a phenomenon called emotional crosstalk. A really strong jolt of fear can actually spill over and light up other emotional circuits. And this is one of the big theories for why some of us actually enjoy being scared. That fear signal bleeds over and triggers a feeling of excitement, even euphoria.
Okay, so that explains the horror movie thing. But what about the other side of the paradox? Why do we get so spooked by positive things, like our own potential for growth?
This quote just nails the feeling, doesn't it? When you're standing in front of something huge and majestic, like a mountain range, or maybe a huge opportunity in your own life, it can stir up this mix of total awe and, well, terror. You feel powerful, but at the same time, you feel tiny. It's that feeling of facing the great, majestic unknown.
And really, when you get right down to it, what we're talking about is a fundamental human fear, the fear of the unknown. Some psychologists argue that pretty much all our other fears, they just boil down to this one. We are literally wired to resist things we can't predict.
Now, on a brain level, this fear of uncertainty flips a switch on something called the Behavioral Inhibition System, or BIS for short. Think of it as your brain's internal threat detector. And here's the wild part. Your BIS cannot tell the difference between a real physical threat, like a bear chasing you, and an imagined psychological one, like the possibility of failing in a new job. To your brain, they're both a threat, and they both trigger that same panicked fight-or-flight response.
And this sets up a massive internal tug-of-war. On one side, you have the safety and comfort of the status quo, where everything is familiar. But on the other side, you have all the perceived dangers of growth, new responsibilities, the potential for failure, and that big, scary, great unknown.
You know, this feeling isn't just some vague anxiety. It's a recognized psychological phenomenon that's been studied for a long time. And yes, it has a name. It's called the Jonah complex. The famous psychologist Abraham Maslow coined the term to describe this super common human tendency to fear and run away from our own best talents, our greatest potential. It's that nagging inner voice that says, "Who am I to do this?" Or, "I'm just not ready for that kind of greatness."
So what does this complex actually look like? Well, it's a few different things rolled into one. First, there's just straight-up anxiety over success itself, and the new responsibilities that come with it. Then there's this strange fear of discovering our own limits, like what if we try our absolute best and it's still not what we hoped for? Then you've got the tyranny of perfectionism, which is so powerful it can stop us from even starting. And finally, there's the wait until game we all play. I'll do it when I have more experience. I'll start when the time is right. You know, those stories we tell ourselves to avoid the discomfort of change?
Okay, I know that all sounds pretty daunting, but this is where the story takes a really hopeful turn. We are not prisoners of this complex. We can absolutely change our relationship with fear.
So here it is, maybe the most important takeaway from this whole explainer. Your brain is not fixed. It is not set in stone. It is remarkably, wonderfully adaptable. That very wiring that creates this fear, it can be changed. This amazing ability is called neuroplasticity. And this isn't just some feel-good concept, it's hard science. Research shows that the more you use certain pathways in your brain, the stronger they physically get, just like a muscle. This means we can literally build new neural highways, creating new habits and new mindsets that help us step outside our comfort zone.
So the big question is, how do we actually do that?
Well, one really effective method is called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. The power of ACT comes from a simple but profound shift in thinking. The goal isn't to get rid of your fearful thoughts, it's to learn to accept them. By changing your relationship with these thoughts, you take away their power and they stop controlling what you do.
Let me give you two powerful ACT techniques. The first one is called diffusion. You take a word that has a lot of emotional power over you, like failure, and just repeat it out loud for about a minute. Failure, failure, failure. After a while, it just becomes a weird sound, right? It loses its emotional sting. The second one is the bus metaphor, and I love this one. Imagine you're the driver of a bus. That bus is your life. Your thoughts, your fears, your memories, they're all just passengers, and they can be loud and obnoxious, shouting directions from the back. But here's the thing. You are the one driving. You don't have to listen to them. You can hear them, acknowledge they're there, and keep driving toward your destination.
Ultimately, it all comes down to a choice. The author, John Steinbeck, put it perfectly. He wrote that we can choose to live in safety, where everything is predictable and known. But he warns, making that choice also means that we are left incomplete.
So the goal here isn't to conquer fear or to somehow eliminate uncertainty from your life. That's impossible. The real goal is to accept the unknown as the bread and butter of a meaningful life. It's about learning to drive your bus, even when you've got some very noisy passengers in the back.
And all of this leaves us with one final big question for you to think about. What are you actually capable of? Where is the ceiling to your potential? It's impossible to know from the sidelines, but it just might be worth finding out.